Dear guests, the next panel discussion is Cyprus EU Presidency in 2026. Please take your seat while our speakers prepare for the panel.
I have literally just arrived from the airport, so excuse me for not having asked the logistical questions. My name is Elena Lazarou. I'm the Director General of ELIAMEP, the Hellenic Foundation for European and Foreign Policy, the think tank in Athens, since September 1st. Being in Nicosia, I also have to say I am half Cypriot, so it's really a big pleasure to be here and to have this panel discussion with you. And I really want to thank the Cyprus Forum for being a partner with us on this panel. This is the first of a range of activities that the Cyprus Forum and ELIAMEP will co-host and partner on with regard to the Cypriot presidency of the Council of the European Union in the beginning of 2026, which is literally only a few months away. So I'm really excited to have two excellent speakers to join me today to discuss the challenges, the opportunities, the geopolitical landscape, the priorities that await Cyprus in assuming for the second time the presidency of the Council of the European Union. Having lived in Brussels myself for the last 10 years, I know that the nitty-gritty and the intricacies and the planning it's a very exciting time for a country to host the presidency, and it gives opportunity for a lot of showcasing of the country itself. But it's also a challenge, particularly for a country that is relatively small. So I'm looking forward to discussing this with the two speakers today. I'm joined with Eleftheria Aristotelous. She's the Deputy Head for Program and Policy Division of the Secretariat of the Cyprus Presidency of the Council. Very nice to meet you, and I'm sorry we didn't have time to chat a bit before. And I'm also very happy to be joined by my colleague, Cleopatra Kitti, who is a certified independent director and advisor to international organizations and governments, founder of the Mediterranean Growth Initiative, with which we collaborate very closely with ELIAMEP as part of our Mediterranean activities, and a senior advisor at ELIAMEP. So very good to be here with you, ladies. So maybe, Eleftheria, I'll start with you to give us the broader picture, to tell us, what is the landscape, the global and perhaps the European and regional, under which Cyprus now assumes this task, how you have been thinking about it, what is on your agenda, what are the high-level meetings that we should expect, what are the considerations that you've had in planning, and what is the big thing that we should be looking for? So a lot of questions to kick off.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity to engage. Just a few months before Cyprus assumes for the second time the presidency of the Council of the EU, at the Secretariat of the Cyprus Presidency, under the leadership of the Deputy Minister for European Affairs, Mrs. Rauna, we are preparing methodically and intensively to deliver on an ambitious, results-driven and forward-looking presidency. As you have already mentioned, this is the second time that we assume this huge task. There have been a lot of developments since last time, 2012. This is a different Europe, and Cyprus is also different. It's a more mature member state. It's more experienced. It's a member state that believes in more European integration, and it's ready to concentrate its efforts towards that goal. As you mentioned, Elena, at a time of growing global instability and in the face of many and unprecedented challenges like the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, the alarming situation in the Middle East, the fight against climate change, and attempts to undermine the global rules-based order. The EU needs to meet the aspirations of its citizens, strengthen its competitiveness, become a global leader in issues like green transition, tackle migration, and all these challenges are reflected in the strategic agenda. That was a document agreed last year by the European Council, by the leaders of the EU. It sets out the political priorities and the orientation of our union for 5 years, and it guides the work of the EU institutions. Through the strategic agenda, there are 3 pillars that figure an open and democratic Europe, a stronger and more competitive Europe, a strong and secure Europe. The main issues that dominate now the EU agenda are, of course, Ukraine, competitiveness, defense and security. Right now, there is an informal meeting of EU heads of state or government taking place in Denmark. It will be dedicated to Ukraine and also to the common defense readiness of the EU. But also issues like migration are very dominant in the agenda. Cyprus Presidency, right now we are drafting our 6 months program. It's a process that has begun in the beginning of this year. We have consulted the main ministries. There have been several rounds of consultations, including consultations with social partners. It will be finalized towards the end of the Danish presidency. It will be published in mid-December, but already some issues are obvious that they will be very high on the agenda in terms of external affairs. As it's anticipated, we will focus on our neighborhood, so the EU's southern neighborhood, Eastern Mediterranean, specifically the situation in the Middle East, our relations with the Gulf partners. There will be several meetings held in Cyprus. There will be 27 high-level meetings, including an informal meeting of heads of state or government, that we anticipate to have this regional dimension. Enlargement is another issue that is very important to us. We are a staunch supporter of the enlargement process. This is, as we know, a merit-based process, but we tend to continue the current momentum in that important file. The most important dossier that we will inherit will be the new MFF, so the negotiations for the next EU budget, based on the proposal that was presented by the European Commission back in July. We know that this is a very significant, a very demanding task. We intend to act as honest brokers and move those discussions forward, depending on where our Danish trio partners will be able to reach. Competitiveness is, as I mentioned, is very high on the EU agenda. This goes hand in hand with simplification efforts, so efforts to reduce administrative burden on EU industries. We tend to continue efforts to deepen the single market, advance the capital markets union. Another important issue I would like to mention is water management. It's very important for Cyprus. We are in a region of the world that is very sensitive to the consequences of climate change, and water scarcity is important for us. We will build on the momentum created by the presentation of the Commission's strategy on water resources. And another issue that I would like to mention is migration. During our presidency, the new Pact on Migration and Asylum will be implemented. We plan to have a dedicated ministerial meeting in Cyprus to mark that important milestone. And also, housing is an issue that is very high on many EU member states' agendas. So we'll try to coordinate some common policies by having, again, a dedicated ministerial meeting in Cyprus.
Thank you. A very full agenda, and a lot of what you mentioned, of course, rolls over from the work done by the Polish presidency and now by the Danish presidency, the defense piece, the readiness piece, the climate security piece now with the Danes. But what's interesting as well is the MFF, which, interestingly for our region, will be concluded with the Greek presidency of the Council. So we have, in 2027, so we have essentially from Cyprus to Greece now, our region very much involved in those negotiations about the allocation of the next budget. I also want to say before I go to Cleopatra that I find very commendable that a lot of young people are now working for the Cypriot presidency of the EU, and seeing a lot of young people here in the room, I can only say this is tremendous for the demographics and the skills of the region in our areas of political sciences. But Cleopatra, one thing that wasn't mentioned specifically but was alluded to is that we will have this month, October, the presentation of the EU's Pact for the Mediterranean, and obviously a lot of the issues that have been mentioned now by Eleftheria, ranging from migration and demographics to the water scarcity issue, to environmental issues, to housing in the region, but also democracy that was mentioned. They're all part and parcel of how to go forward in Euro-Mediterranean relations in a moment where there is no doubt that things are very difficult for intra-regional communication and cooperation. So can you give us a bit of that landscape, and also how you think Cyprus can leverage this role to perhaps move that forward?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Cyprus Forum. If you can hear as well. Thank you. Thank you, Elena. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Cyprus. And congratulations on your new appointment at ELIAMEP. Eleftheria, thank you for being here and giving us insights. I think you are the policy brain of the effort at the ministry, so congratulations for all your work. Before I start, a little bit of a personal story, why I am eligible to talk about the EU presidency as somebody who comes from the private sector. And the policy work done from my lens and experience in the business world. And maybe it is a little karmic, it's a bit of karma that Mrs. Diamantopoulou is here today, a very accomplished European politician, because back in 2003, when I was in Brussels working, the Greek government under Prime Minister Simitis and Foreign Minister George Papandreou had selected me and my team as an independent sort of set of experts to help the Greek presidency in its preparation of its 2003 presidency to prepare an academic report on the competencies of a European presidency for small, medium, and large member states. And Mrs. Diamantopoulou was the first reader of that report that led into, I think, a very successful Greek presidency of 2003. So it's been since 1999 that I've started work in Brussels, through many years later, maybe 15 years. And it is from that experience that I give my input today. And let me start by agreeing with Mr. Aristotelous of the context that the second presidency of Cyprus is indeed taking place in a much different world. Cyprus is already for 20 years a member state, but the world that we live in is changing. In 2012, when the first presidency was happening, multilateralism was the status quo. countries were willing to collaborate. Now they don't. Institutions were respected. Now they are eroded. So with that disruption comes a disruption of capital flows and trade. The globalization was prevailing then. Now we're moving more into a very nationalist agenda of trade and how capital moves. Then traditional finance, both multilateral and private capital, was a different format, or through banking and institutions. Now it's through deregulated finance, crypto, and blockchain. So a world is a completely different world. And Europe faces existential tests in its unity. There is not a unified bloc of countries anymore as we used to know it. Its security is challenged, its competitiveness, and its values. So Cyprus, if I were to give it a theme, it would be a small state, big opportunity. Why? Because it has to listen more and bring people together in a way of building trust, relationships, and coalitions in order to bring the union's business forward, which is the primary test of a presidency. Not to disrupt the business of the union, but seamlessly carry it forward. The central test, I think, for Cyprus is to be a listener and a convener in bringing the multi-annual financial framework, the MFF, forward, or bringing it to a point where there can be an agreement, because it is a difficult task. It's about how money of the union is allocated to different regions and different countries. And I think its success lies on acting as an honest broker, a role where small member states perform better than large member states because they can afford to listen and bring people together, and their political baggage doesn't inhibit coalitions. So if I were to say three competencies of a presidency, or the three tests, it would be institutional. Can Cyprus carry forward the multi-annual financial framework to a point of agreement? Representational. Can it define a theme bigger than itself? Can water be the theme that will be a bigger theme for the union to come together? And can it potentially be a Nicosia declaration on water for Europe? And then reputational. Can its neutrality build a legacy of compromise and peace? Can Cyprus rise above its own political issue, the occupation and division of the country, to create an understanding and realization in Europe that what we face in Cyprus should not be a precedent for other erosion of Europe's borders? So Cyprus can be part of the solution, not part of the problem. You asked me about the regional, the EuroMed. So Cyprus is at the EU's most southeastern frontier, and it is strategically positioned. The Euro-Mediterranean is 500 million people. We are as large as the internal market. We produce 10% of global GDP in the Euro-Mediterranean area, and I mean the Levant, Turkey, the Balkan Rim, North Africa, and the Mediterranean, European Mediterranean. But only a quarter of our trade is intra-regional. We are the least connected region in the world. So we've been tracking at the Mediterranean Growth Initiative and ELIAMEP work at the Mediterranean. We've been tracking intra-Mediterranean trade and performance for the last 10 years. Nothing has moved in 10 years. There has been no progress, no deepening of our integration as a Euromed area. Can Cyprus be a bridge? I think bringing neighbors into the EU dialogue and fostering collaboration and stability is very commendable. but it needs to be part of a wider European strategy. Can Cyprus seed that strategy and make it more institutional so it's not a one-off thing? And last comment, the presidency serves for Europe's collective good, but we should not forget Cyprus's reality. We are a divided island. We have occupation, and the EU law is suspended on 30% of our territory. We are also the EU's only isolated island state. So the presidency should remind Europe of Cyprus's reality. It should also remind Cypriots of what Europe is about, because we are far away geographically, we are isolated. We're not far from Brussels if we choose to make Brussels part of our intellectual capital here. So the presidency has the possibility to do that. I think neutrality can be our strength. A small state can leave a large footprint. I leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cleopatra. Since ELIAMEP is a content partner, I think I am allowed to promote the fact that tomorrow in our newsletter, in ELIAMEP's newsletter, Cleopatra will have a piece on exactly the small island, big opportunity theme. So I invite you all to subscribe or read it. We have about 4 minutes left for discussion with the panelists, and then we have to open the floor for questions. Is that the signal I'm getting, just to confirm? Or do we have 5 minutes altogether? We started late. We have 5 minutes altogether. Well, then, Eleftheria, you have escaped my question, which would be if you want to comment on how you plan to bring Cyprus's own challenges into the council conversation, as Cleopatra said, but maybe you can save this question of mine about how the presidency will propose to go about bringing the challenge of the Cypriot issue to the European debates after we take questions from the audience, because our panel has been very much shortened, so I do want to get some questions in. So there's already a question in the second row there. I will note to the Cyprus Forum that 10 minutes have been stolen from us, though, but we can start with the questions. Yes, if you want to say who you are and where you're affiliated to.
Thank you for this. My name is Marios Harilaou. I'm the CEO of Morphosis. We're a newly established consultancy in London and here in Nicosia. And one of the things we do is water. On a parallel note, before starting this consultancy, I was based in Jordan doing some research on behalf of the University of Oxford and then for Freiburg in Germany. And basically the main theme of the research was water. Long story short, it came down to the fact that if you don't have proper water metrics, it's impossible to solve the problem, right? Whether this is groundwater depletion, dam reconstruction, or household level water insecurity, that plays differently at different parts, also depending on whether it's richer or poorer area. Again, on a parallel note, as a consultant right now, it doesn't really make sense to go into the water metric development industry because it doesn't pay that well. So I guess my question for you is, given that water scarcity is a huge problem right now, and amidst accepting the fact that you need to measure the problem before going about solving it, and also amidst accepting the fact that for the private sector, water metric development is, I'm not going to say it's a no-go because the EU started funding it right now, but there are other more profitable areas to go in. How will the presidency, how will you good people make it more
attractive to business?
Attractive to businesses to go into these niche areas that are necessary.
Thank you, and thank you. And the gentleman right in front of you.
Hello, my name is Christos. I worked actually at the EIS in Brussels, in Libya. I was based in Tripoli, and now I work for the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue. It's called HD, it's based in Geneva. It's a private diplomacy organization. My focus is on the East Med and the Middle East. I was wondering what Cyprus during the EU presidency can do to actually mediate in this very immediate neighborhood of the European Union, keeping in mind the energy aspect and the mediation opportunities that someone like country like Cyprus, which is a very neutral, except one vis-a-vis towards one country. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have water, we have energy, we have the Cyprus issue, and maybe your final comment from both of you. So maybe this time I'll start again with Eleftheria, and then we'll go to Cleopatra.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your questions. With regards to the water scarcity, water management, as a rotating presidency of the Council, our role would be to facilitate and give a platform to have these discussions also with experts, with technical experts on how to propose solutions, new ways forward. We see the problem, we understand it. The European Commission too, because it has recently announced a relevant strategy. But we hope, as a member state that holds the 6 months presidency, we are not able to set a new agenda for the EU, I mean, from scratch, but we are able to pick some issues that are closer to our hearts, highlight them, bring them to the forefront, and try to have some meaningful discussions with our partners and look for a way forward. We understand the certification, water scarcity is particularly relevant in this region of the world that we are living. Cyprus has been leading discussions on this issue also at the Med9 Forum. Last year we had the presidency of the Med9 format. We had a ministerial here in Cyprus. We had a declaration on water. So we tend to build on those experiences and try to move forward with more tangible solutions on the issue of water management. If I may comment also on the ability to mediate. Foreign policy is a competence of the EEAS, so we are, as a rotating presidency, we will be defining the agenda on those issues jointly with the High Representative. For us, it's no secret that we have always advocated for a focus on our region. We believe the EU needs to take a closer look to the southern neighborhood. And we are very pleased that in the new commission we have, for the first time, a commissioner dedicated to the Mediterranean. We are looking forward to the presentation of the new Pact for the Mediterranean. Thank you very much, Cleopatra, for mentioning that. It will be implemented during our presidency. As a member state that has traditionally very good and friendly relations with the countries of our region, on the bilateral level, but also in trilateral mechanisms and platforms. We enjoy very close partnerships with those countries in the Eastern Mediterranean, and we hope that this is the added value that we will bring as a rotating presidency. Because that we know their needs, we know their requests, and we hope that we will be able to address some of the very pressing issues that those countries are facing and that are directly related to the EU's also safety and prosperity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cleopatra, your final comments?
Yes, I'll be very acerbic. The EU has failed in its Euro-Mediterranean policy completely. So if there is change, I think Cyprus has an opportunity to bring forward new thinking. Because as I said, we've been tracking interconnectivity of our region for 10 years and there has been no progress because political will or institutions are not functioning as they should, and there is scope to do better. On water, there is a lot of work done at the Cyprus Institute. There is a hydro diplomacy task team. I think it starts with data I think it starts with collecting data for the region. I think it starts with putting policy frameworks around data, because if there's one thing that the Euro-Mediterranean, whether it's on water or migration or the big issues that challenge our region, it is about informed decision-making. We need to go back to basics with data for informed policy-making, not just foreign policy or diplomacy, political, ephemeral priorities. This needs to be for the long term. It's the livelihood of people, it's peace, it's prosperity, it's collaboration, it's unity. Thank you, and good luck, Eleftheria, with the presidency.
Thank you very much, Cleopatra. And can I just say how dense this was for a 20-minute conversation, how we discussed a number of interconnected things. Let's not forget that water is a critical part of conflict resolution and peace building. Let's not forget the Jordan Aquifer and its significance for the Palestinian people. I think Cyprus can play a tremendous role, knowing this region as it does. Foreign policy is no longer just foreign policy. It's climate policy, it's digital regulation, it's trade, and there's a lot to be done there. So with this teaser of the next, the 6 first months of 2026, I invite you all to thank our 2 great speakers. Thank you for your attention, and hope to join the Cyprus Forum again in the future. Thank you.